Then we reach point number 137. وَلَا يَخْرُجُ الْعَبْدُ مِنَ الْإِيمَانِ إِلَّا بِجُحُودِ مَا أَدْخَلَهُ فِيهِ. And the servant does not exit from Eemaan except by denying that which entered him into it. And the servant does not exit from Eemaan except by denying that which entered him into it. Shaykh Fawzan said, an objection is to be made to this speech. This speech here is not totally correct. An objection is to be made to this speech, since restricting unbelief to juhud, restricting unbelief to be only denial, this is the position of the murji'ah. In this statement, in point number 137, as it stands there, without restriction, is not a correct statement. The servant does not exit from Eemaan except by denying that which entered him into it. Shaykh al-Fawzan said, an objection is to be made to this speech, since restricting unbelief to being only denial, this is the position of the murji'ah. Then he said, whereas the nawaqidul Islam, those things which nullify a person's Islam, are many. I mean, not just denial. There are many other things which nullify a person's Islam, take a person out of Islam. From them, and then he mentioned some examples, from them are al-juhud, what was mentioned in the point. No doubt, denial is something which does take a person outside Islam, but it's not the only thing. He said, and from them is committing shirk with Allah, the Mighty and Majestic. And from them is al-istihza, mocking the religion or anything from it, even if he doesn't deny it. And making fun of any part of Islam, mocking it, even if the person says, but I don't deny it, I'm just having a joke. So mocking anything from, mocking Islam, mocking the religion of Islam, or anything from it, even if the person doesn't deny it. And there are many things which nullify it. The scholars and the jurists have mentioned them in the chapters of ridda, of apostasy. Obviously in the books of fiqh and the like, and the scholars, they mention a chapter of apostasy. Those things which make a person an apostate if he does them, those things which take a person out of Islam. So he said, the scholars mention these things, which are many, which take a person outside Islam. And then he said, and from them is deeming the forbidden to be permissible, and deeming the permissible to be forbidden. I mean, that which Allah has made forbidden, holding that and declaring that and thinking that is the opposite. Thinking that which Allah has made forbidden is allowed for me. Or thinking that which is allowed, Allah has allowed, is forbidden. That takes a person outside of Islam as well. Then Shaykh al-Fawzan said, and Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab mentioned 10 from them. He mentioned in his famous book, Nawaqidul Islam, those things which break a person's Islam, he mentioned 10 affairs which break a person's Islam, which take a person out of Islam. And they are the most important. And it's not limited to 10. The Shaykh al-Islam ibn Abdul Wahhab just wrote the book highlighting the 10 most important things that takes a person, if he does them, out of Islam. And he said, however, the nawaqid, those things which break a person's Islam, are actually many. So restricting those things which break a person's Islam to al-juhud, to denial alone, is a mistake. And what occurs in the main point, in the heading here, the point of the text, that nothing takes a servant out of Eemaan except that denying that which brought him into it, this is a mistake. Then he said, and some writers who have a false appearance of knowledge today try to manifest this position to give the people more scope and ease regarding the religion. In some present day writers, they hold this point that's mentioned here, that a person doesn't leave Islam unless he denies Islam or something from it. Shaykh Fawzan said, continuing with what they say, so as long as the person doesn't deny, then in their view he will still be a Muslim. Even if he prostrates, he makes sajda to an idol, if he says, but I don't deny, and he says, I acknowledge Tawheed, then they say, then it is just a sin from the sins. A person who's a Muslim, he makes sajda to an idol, but he says, if he's questioned about it, he says, but I don't deny Islam, I agree with Tawheed, then in their view, this person is still a Muslim then. And he's just committed a sin, like any other sin. Shaykh Fawzan said, or if he slaughters, he sacrifices to someone other than Allah, or if he insults and abuses Allah, or insults and abuses the messenger, or insults and abuses the religion, then they say, these people say, this person is still a Muslim. This person is a Muslim because he has not denied. Then this is a grave error. And that's what judgment the people would pass. These people would pass on a person like that. The one who makes a prostration to the idol, one who speaks ill of Allah, abuses Allah, or the messenger, or the religion, or the like, then they say he's still a Muslim. As long as he doesn't deny Islam, he's still a Muslim. Shaykh Fawzan said, and this is a grave error. This ruins the religion totally. So no religion remains with that. So what is obligatory is to beware of this tremendous danger. We should beware of a saying like that. Some people become so lax about Islam that they say a person will remain a Muslim no matter what he does. Even if he abuses Allah, abuses the messenger, speaks ill of the religion, prostrates to idols and the like, as long as he doesn't deny Islam upon his tongue. Likewise, that's where Shaykh Fawzan ends explanation of this point. Then there's a note that Shaykh Abdul Aziz bin Baz, rahimahullah, that he makes at this point as well, with regard to the main line, and the servant does not exit from Eemaan except by denying that which brought him into it. He said, Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah said, this restriction is not correct. And then he goes on to explain what brings a person into Islam. What is it that brings a person into Islam to begin with? He said, because the unbeliever enters into Islam by the shahadatain, by the two shahadas, if he is a person who did not say them from before. And if he was a person who used to say the two shahadas, I mean, he used to be a Muslim, but then he became an apostate, then he enters into Islam by repenting that which made him become an unbeliever. In other words, these two ways in which a person comes into Islam. The person who is a kafir outright, who wasn't a Muslim before, he enters into Islam by saying the shahada, the two shahadatain, 2 shahadas. That enters him into Islam. That's what enters him into Islam. And as for a person who used to be a Muslim, and then he became an apostate, he did something that made him a kafir, then he comes back into Islam by repenting from that which took him out of it. Then the Shaykh said, whereas, so that's what brings a person into Islam. And he said, whereas a person may exit from Islam by other than denial. He may leave Islam because of many reasons, which the people of knowledge have explained in the chapters on the ruling of the apostate. And from that, from those things which will take a person outside Islam, from that is speaking ill of Islam, speaking badly about Islam, or about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, or mocking Allah and His Messenger and His book, or anything that Allah the Perfect has legislated, mocking anything which Allah has legislated. And then he gives an evidence for that mocking any of that takes a person out of Islam. He said, because of his saying, He the Perfect, قُلْ أَبِاللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ وَرَسُولِهِ كُنْتُمْ تَسْتَهْزِئُونَ لَا تَعْتَذِرُوا قَدْ كَفَرْتُمْ بَعْدَ إِيمَانِكُمْ. Surah Tawbah, the 9th surah, ayahs 65 to 66, with the explanation. Say, is it at Allah and His signs and His Messenger that you were mocking? Do not make any excuse. You have become unbelievers after your Eemaan. So that's an evidence that mocking Allah or His Messenger or the religion and Allah's signs takes a person out of Islam. That ayah, those 2 ayahs. Then Shaykh bin Baz said, and from that, from those things which take a person out of Islam, above and beyond denying, is worshipping idols, or worshipping objects which are worshipped, or calling upon the dead and seeking rescue from them, and requesting things from them, and asking for aid from them, and the like of that. Because all of this nullifies the saying, La ilaha illallah. Doing these things, it nullifies the saying that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. Since that indicates, since the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, indicates that the right, that worship is the right of Allah alone. And then he mentions further things. He said, the further things that take a person out of Islam, he said, and from them is making dua, calling upon and seeking aid, and making ruku and making sajda. Or rather, he mentions examples. Firstly, he mentions these examples of worship. From worship is dua, supplication, and requesting rescue, and making ruku, and performing sajda, and sacrificing, and making vows, and the like. So whoever directs anything from these things to other than Allah, whether to idols, or objects, or angels, or jinn, or people in the graves, and so on, from the created beings, then he has committed shirk along with Allah. And he has not established the saying, La ilaha illallah. He has not established the saying that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. So all of these affairs take a person out of Islam by ijma', by consensus of the people of knowledge. And these are not matters of denial. And these are not denial of Islam. These are separate affairs which take a person out of Islam. And their evidences are well known from the book and the Sunnah. And there are many other matters by which a Muslim can become an unbeliever. And they are not called juhud, denial. And the scholars have mentioned them in the chapters of the ruling of the apostate. So refer back to that if you wish, and Allah is the one who grants success.